So it's been about a month since I posted anything, but that's because I've been working on a Karthus guide. And right as I was making progress on it, Riot decides to go and fuck everything up by making AP item changes. So that whole project's on hold for now. Before I go and create something that'll be outdated the moment I post it, I'm going to take a good look at the new PvE changes and see what these new items mean for the mid lane meta and what it means for Karthus' itemization. In the PvE, 4 items that Karthus buys are getting changed. One of those is something Karthus buys almost every game, while 3 are more situational. Liandry's has always been a mid-game rush thanks to its flat impin, good amount of health, and generous amount of AP. Now Riot's shifting Liandry's from being an early to mid-game item with its flat penetration, to a more late-game focused tank shredding item with its % bonus damage. So because of that change, we have to ask ourselves, do we still rush it after Roa, or should we save it for later on in the game? So the thing with % magic damage is that it's more helpful in 2 scenarios. The first one is that they don't have enough MR, and the second one is that they have too much MR. If they've already reached 0 MR, then % damage will just amplify that damage even further, and if they have a whole lot of MR, % damage shaves down their effective health. And that means purchasing Haunting Guys is going to be a situational choice for you to make. Are they stacking MR? Then buy it later in the game. Do they not have any MR and you've already got 3 penetration items? Then buy Haunting Guys and proceed to kick ass. The other items that are getting important changes for Karthus are Morellonomicon, Archangel Staff, and Hextech GLP. There's also the matter of Luden's Echo, which used to be what you switch out your boots for in the late game. The Morello's changes are pretty much just copying Liandry's stats and replacing the passive with Grievous Wounds. If you liked having CDR, Morello's was normally a 3rd or 4th buy, so you would always have your ultimate up. But with these changes, now we're seeing Morello's being more of an early/late game item to deal with healing champions. I'm still doing a lot of experimentation to see when the best time to buy this item is. It's strong in the early game thanks to the impin component, but it's also strong in the late game with Grievous Wounds after everyone's already bought their healing and lifesteal items. And today is another very sad day, as we see the death of another catalyst item for Karthus. Hextech GLP has been changed to be more of a mid-game AP carry type item that can slow people down. That doesn't really deviate from what it used to be, but now it's got CDR too and less defensive stats. If you didn't already know, GLP used to be an item you bought instead of Roa if you were running behind on your early game. Either you lost your lane and didn't have time to build into Roa and let it stack, or you were working on other items like Seeker's Arm Guard. Having this lost literally pigeonholes us into building Roa every single game if we buy Catalyst. Abyssal Mask is really niche if you have an AP laner, but apart from that, it's hardly ever built. And finally, there's the changes to Archangel Staff, and damn are they big changes. So now it's built with Tier and Lost Chapter. Lost Chapter's gained a little bit of CDR now, and it's now a component of Luden's Echo, and it's now a viable first item rush. We're about to see a ton of mid laners who didn't normally run Archangel start doing so, and champions who had already normally bought it getting stronger. Luden's is also a viable first buy for champions like Zoe. Tier on Karthus has always been something of a meme and a noob trap, since buying Tier effectively meant losing your early game. But now that meta might change very quickly with Lost Chapter being a strong early buy and Tier coming shortly after. Karthus has always been able to stack Tier quickly, but was largely dependent on other power spikes like Rod of Ages, since Sustain was arguably more important. But now that AP items are getting buffs and we're getting more effective penetration items, the idea of Sustain Karthus might be getting outpaced. After all, why would I buy Sustain items like Catalyst and Zonias when I can take Ravenous Hunter, get Archangel Staff or Luden's Echo, and just Raffle Stomp and Spellvamp Sustain my way through anyone dumb enough to not buy any MR? Even though not buying Catalyst means my health pool stays smaller, Ravenous Hunter is so easy to stack on Karthus that it's almost laughable. And the in-combat sustain I get from Ravenous Hunter is 3 times that of Catalyst. And that's just in the early game. Late game, it means that almost nobody can solo kill you. And this is what's concerning me most. This change in AP heavy items becoming stronger than our usual sustain item counterparts, coupled with the absurdity that is Ravenous Hunter, means a change of the Karthus meta favoring Suicide Karthus. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Not really, it actually makes Karthus an incredibly strong pick into a team with squishy champions and a bruiser instead of a tank. And it's that very same strength that's concerning. Once these item changes drop, and people who normally build Archangels start getting really strong, we might see Riot's patented Hug of Death. The champions who were abusing these items get nerfed in their kits, and then the items themselves get nerfed immediately after. I'm not saying this will happen to someone like Karthus who has rarely been touched, but someone like Cassiopeia who is touched upon frequently might experience some of this. So with these AP item changes, it doesn't necessarily mean Sustain Karthus gets weaker, it just means that Suicide Karthus is stronger in comparison. The more powerful AP heavy items are, the more powerful Suicide Karthus is. Because all he has to do is go in, deal as much damage as possible, then, die. But hey, you know what? At least Suicide Karthus won't have a pure AP item with ridiculous amounts of move speed and AP steroids. I mean, that would just be stupid, right, Riot? And it synergizes with Karthus' kit. Spellbound Orb is either a godsend or a death warrant for Karthus. It's equal parts ridiculously strong if you're ahead or too weak if you're behind. Spellbound Orb requires 100 charges to use to its full potential, and it takes Karthus about 3 minutes to stack that normally with his Q farming alone. If you cast Q non-stop, you can cut that down to about a minute and a half, assuming you have a little bit of CDR, but if you're grouped with your team, it's reasonable to assume it's always full charges whenever you need it. The 75% decaying move speed isn't super impressive on paper considering it decays over 8 seconds, but the burst is more than enough to land a game-changing wall or run down an opponent during your roams. The synergy between stacking Orb while you're simultaneously stacking Tier means it's a solid mid-game buy. Also, the fact it gives 10% bonus move speed means that it's extremely effective with using your wall to chase down targets, even without the active. Remember how I said Ludens was normally what you would buy whenever you sold boots in late game? Well, now it's Spellbound Orb. I mean, the reason is obvious, it gives some of the best move speed in the game, and it also has a really good active for you. There's one more AP item Riot Games is changing, but it's pretty much just a rehashing of Frost Queen's claim. You probably won't buy this item unless you're support. Alright, that just about covers it. Give me a few more weeks of experimenting with the new itemization and climbing to Diamond. Then after that, maybe me posting a guide will mean something. Well, I still have you here. Here's a couple of fun announcements. The subreddit just got over 1,000 subscribers, the Discord is over 50 active members, and we're almost at 1,000 subs on the YouTube channel. This is awesome. I stream every week over on my Twitch channel, so if you ever need help with Karthus, just pop on there and ask a couple questions. Alright, I'm done. Have a good day.